Obviously, Star Wars is a worldwide brand, having some of the most recognizable characters in pop culture, and engaging with this brand can be done on many levels. One of my favorite ways is through toy play. Playing with toys based on any kind of content is a way of engaging with that content in open-ended imaginative play. And role play is also a great way. In fact, when we grow up, we just simply call that cosplay and, pretend that we're still kids, adequately, bonding with our favorite movies. Video games, you can even do a complete immersive environment now, thanks to, Disney's Galactic Cruiser Hotel. Watching the movie, though. Obviously, the core experience of any movie starts with that. And growing up, you could have home viewings of this once VCRs came into play, and followed by Laserdiscs and DVDs. There's never been a lack of home entertainment versions of the Star Wars. I want to talk specifically, though, about the unbelievable experience that, well, I personally had the first time I got to see Star Wars in widescreen. Now, it's not just because these cool boxes were designed by Frank Varela, the same packaging designer I wound up working with on Masters of the Universe Classics and DC Universe Classics. When this widescreen VHS came out, this completely changed my fandom. Suddenly, I was seeing things in Star Wars that I never knew existed, things that I maybe saw snippets of in storybooks or in trading cards, and I always wondered, where are those? I grew up in the 80s watching Star Wars on VHS, and as my VHS tapes slowly got darker and darker and grainier from watching them countless times, I knew it was time for an upgrade. And when the widescreen version became available, I was like, yeah, I'll try that out. Wasn't quite sure what widescreen was, but it sounded neat at the time. All right, let me give a quick definition for those of you who maybe grew up post this. Widescreen is a way of replicating a film aspect ratio on a TV screen. There are different aspect ratios. 4:3 tends to be what a TV screen is. 2:3:5 tends to be what a movie screen is. When movies are shown on a TV screen that is smaller, that's more of a square, it is done through pan and scan. So in other words, the full movie you see in the top screen there looks like that bottom television, where about 33% of the frame is not shown. And this is in order to take a rectangle-shaped object and put it onto a square-shaped object, the TV screen. Now, sometimes this doesn't really matter that much. Sometimes you just zoom in, you lose a little bit of the background on either side, but obviously it's not going to affect the plot or your enjoyment of the film. However, you're not actually seeing the film because movies, for the most part, are shot in what's called widescreen or even anamorphic widescreen, which you can see are shot like big rectangles as opposed to a classic television that is a square. So the more you diverge, from the aspect ratio the film was shot at and shrink it to fit on a different type screen, the more you're losing. And traditionally, people tend to be, wait a minute, I'm not seeing the whole picture. I'm seeing these giant black bars on the top and bottom. Why can't I see the whole thing? No, you are seeing the whole thing. The black bars are being used to modify a television set in order to make it work as a movie screen. So when you're seeing black bars, you are seeing the full picture. You're not seeing a redacted version. That's actually without the black bars, you're seeing less. You're seeing about a third less of the film. Widescreen started in 1955 with a film called The Robe. Yes, I was a film major in college, so this was fun stuff we got to learn about. It was done in order to combat television. As televisions became popular in the 50s, they needed a way to draw people into the theater. So they came up with the idea, well, what if we make the picture at a movie theater bigger and wider so that it wouldn't work on a TV, forcing people to come to movies. And so this became the first CinemaScope, which later became known as widescreen, in 1955. However, it's ironic now that we have televisions shaped like CinemaScope or widescreen movies. So the whole concept of trying to create movies that have an aspect ratio that can't be viewed at home in order to drive people to theaters wound up coming in full reverse now that we have TVs that are actually shaped like widescreen. All right, so back to Star Wars and the experience of seeing this film in widescreen. Now, most films, like I said, when you go from pan and scan to widescreen, you're really, while you're missing a third of it, you can get the gist of the story and it's not the end of the world. Star Wars was very, very different. When I upgraded from my original VHSs to the new widescreen THX trilogy VHSs, this was right before the special editions and DVDs started becoming big, well, Star Wars is a lot denser than most films. There's a lot more going on, especially when you have things like the Cantina send scene or, the Battle of Hoth. Just because you have a bigger TV, it doesn't mean you're seeing more. TVs, even in the 80s, were just still squares. It wasn't until we started getting flat screen rectangular TVs that we were able to see the full vision of Star Wars, of George Lucas's movie, as it was shown in theaters. So the first time that I saw this on television, yes, we had black bars, but I knew I was seeing the whole picture. This was one of the best Star Wars experiences of my life, and I had some pretty great Star Wars experiences. Waiting in line for Episode 1, waiting in line for Episode 1 toys at midnight, regretting seeing Episode 1. All right. Now, in particular, there was this character, Dejash Pur, who I had as a decipher card. And I was like, he is not in the cantina. They are making this guy up. Well, lo and behold, when I finally saw it in widescreen, boom, there he is on the side of the table next to, is that Muftak and one of the, well, it's not Figure and Dan, it's like someone from his species, I think like their manager or something. But yeah, a scene like the cantina is so chock full of aliens, you don't even realize you're not seeing, like you're missing so many of them. Snaggletooth, another character that I never saw until I saw the movie in widescreen. I was like, oh, that's where he is. There's all these other characters that I've seen for years in storybooks or in, clips. There was even a widescreen card series put out in the 90s, which really is terrific because it shows off, just how beautiful these still images are when they're seen in their proper aspect ratio of 2 to 235, or 1 to 235, meaning the rectangle is 2.35 to 1 of the short side. So, it didn't matter if you had a big TV in the 80s. It was still a square. And until you found a way to watch Star Wars as a rectangle, whether that was through a flat screen TV currently or the VHS release or Laserdiscs back in the 80s, which were also in widescreen, it's mind-blowing the difference. It was just, I still remember to this day sitting in my friend Evan's house watching it on his TV, and we were just like, oh my God, there's a stormtrooper over there. Oh my gosh, there's another alien over there. It was like getting to watch Star Wars all over again, but it was even better. And even compared to seeing the special edition, this was a more memorable moment from my childhood. So, curious, did you have this as well? Did you hate those black bars? Have you made the switch? Have you ever seen anything in pan and scan? Maybe today's generation doesn't even know what that is. It's crazy to think about, but it's worth remembering because it's part of Star Wars history. It's part of the viewing of Star Wars through VHS, which was the big way most people viewed it in the 80s. I hope you enjoyed this video, and it was a neat look at one of the Star Wars experiences that's just not talked about that much, but I think is really impactful. Have you ever made that switch, widescreen to pan and scan? What do you think about it? Let me know in your comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.